The sun wasn't even up yet, but the world inside apartment 3C already felt wrong. NIA Carter ***, a black single mother with the kind of exhaustion that sinks into the bones, woke up to a smell she couldn't place. Something warm, rich, completely out of place in her life. She blinked, sat up slowly, and rubbed her temples. Her night shift as a janitor had left her legs heavy, her throat dry, and her spirit even heavier. But the smell, it wasn't instant noodles. It wasn't burnt toast. It wasn't anything she had the money or time to cook. Her heartbeat quickened. She slipped out of bed and moved toward the hallway, each step slow, confused, almost afraid. And then, she stopped breathing, because standing in her tiny kitchen, in her old, dented frying pan, wearing a crisp white dress shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, was a *** white man she knew only from company posters, news articles, and the office she cleaned at 2 a.m. Ethan Hale, the billionaire CEO of HaleTech, one of the most powerful men in the city, and he was cooking breakfast in her apartment. Her voice broke before it even formed. What are you? Before she could finish, a soft voice interrupted. Mommy, look. Her 7-year-old son, Micah, sat at the table swinging his legs, happily eating pancakes dripping with syrup. Mr. Ethan made me breakfast. Nia's knees weakened. She almost grabbed the wall to stay standing. Her mind raced, panic, fear, confusion all blurring together. Why was he here? How did he get in? Was she about to lose her job? Was this some kind of setup, a cruel joke, a trap? Ethan turned toward her slowly. His expression wasn't cold like in meetings. It was soft, almost broken. Nia, he said quietly, placing a plate on the table. There's something I need to tell you. She swallowed hard. Her chest tightened. The room felt too small, too bright, too unreal. Ethan took one step closer. And after today, his voice dropped to a trembling whisper. Your life will never be the same. The world froze around her. What they didn't know would change everything. Nia Carter had always woken up tired, but this kind of tired lived deeper than her bones. It lived in stories she never got to tell, in sacrifices nobody ever thanked her for, in nights when she cried quietly so her son wouldn't hear. She had built her life around survival, not comfort. There was no room for rest, no room for mistakes, no room for dreaming. Her world had rules. Keep your head down, work the night shift, do your job, avoid attention, and never give anyone a reason to take away the tiny life she had managed to piece together. For 7 years, she had been raising Micah alone, since the day his father walked out the moment he found out she was pregnant. That was the first time Nia learned what it meant to be truly invisible. People only saw her when they needed something cleaned, fixed, or silently endured. During those years, she had learned something else too. When you're poor and black in a city built by wealthy men, the world treats your dignity like it's optional. She worked in HaleTech Tower, a building so shiny it looked like the sky had been turned into glass. But to her, it wasn't beautiful. It was a battlefield where every shift brought a new reminder of where she didn't belong. She saw the CEO's face almost every night, not in person, but in framed photos lining the hallways. Ethan Hale shaking hands with governors. Ethan Hale receiving awards. Ethan Hale standing in front of a company she was never meant to be part of. She didn't dislike him. She didn't admire him. She simply never thought someone like him would ever know her name. Her biggest fear wasn't losing her job. It was losing her son. Micah was the one piece of joy she still had, the one thing she protected with every part of herself. He was gentle, small for his age, always clutching the same worn-out superhero backpack she had bought at a thrift store. He struggled in school not because he wasn't smart, but because he was quiet in a world that rewarded loudness. Teachers said he was sensitive. Others said he was different. Nia just said he was hers. The world didn't make space for boys like him, so she tried to create that space, even when she had no space left for herself. And lately, their life had been falling apart faster than she could hold it together. The landlord had slipped a final warning under the door. Rent was due in 4 days. She had already sold her jewelry, her old phone, even the sofa. She was 3 mistakes away from homelessness, 2 missed paychecks away from disaster, and 1 bad night away from losing custody. She felt the pressure every night at HaleTech, supervisors breathing down her neck, colleagues whispering that budget cuts were coming, rumors that the company was replacing the cleaning staff. She prayed silently during every shift, hoping her name wouldn't be on the list. But the night before Ethan appeared in her kitchen, something had happened in that tower, something that had pulled Nia into a storm she didn't choose. Near the end of her shift, she found her coworker Denise crying in the restroom. Denise told her there had been an incident, something with one of the senior managers and a woman from accounting, a case of harassment that the company wanted to bury. Nia listened, heart-pounding, because she knew what that meant. Someone powerful had done something terrible, and someone powerless would be blamed for it. She didn't know that her name would be the one dragged into the mess. She didn't know that Ethan Hale would learn about her before she even left the building. She didn't know that her attempt to help someone would turn into a chain reaction reaching straight to the top floor, and straight into her life. When she clocked out that night, she was thinking only of rent, daycare, and survival. She had no idea a storm was following her home. No idea a man with more power than she'd ever dreamed of was already searching for her address. No idea that by sunrise, her life would collide with his in the most impossible way. And absolutely no idea why the CEO of Haletech was in her kitchen making breakfast for her son. Everything was about to unravel. Everything was about to be exposed. And nothing in her life would ever be the same again. Nia stood frozen in the doorway, the same doorway she had walked through 1,000 times before, but today it felt like the entrance to a world she didn't belong to. Ethan Hale in her kitchen made no sense. Everything in her life had been simple, predictable, painfully ordinary. Her struggles were ordinary. Her fears were ordinary. Her paycheck was ordinary. Nothing about this moment was ordinary. Ethan set down a spatula and looked at her with an expression she had never seen him wear in the framed photos at work. His shoulders weren't squared with confidence. His chin wasn't lifted with authority. Instead, there was a softness, a quiet tremble under the surface, the look of a man who had something heavy to say. "Nia, please sit," he said gently. She didn't move, couldn't. Her pulse thudded in her ears. She wasn't sure if she was supposed to protect her son, defend herself, or ask him to leave. "How do you know where I live?" she whispered. Micah swung his legs happily, syrup on his cheeks, completely unaware that his mother's entire world was shaking apart. "Mommy, he made me extra pancakes." She forced a shaky smile for her son, then her eyes snapped back to Ethan. His presence filled the whole apartment, not because of his size, but because of what he represented. Wealth, power, consequence. The kind of man whose decisions trickled down to people like her, usually in ways that hurt. He lifted his hands slightly, palms open, as if he didn't want to scare her. "I'll explain everything, but I need you to trust that I'm not here to harm you." Her throat tightened. Trust was not something she gave easily, not anymore. But something in his voice wasn't fake. It wasn't the polished charm of a CEO. It was more like a man who'd been awake all night, wrestling with something bigger than him. She finally stepped closer, but slowly, like she was approaching a line she wasn't sure she should cross. "Why are you here? I could get fired just for you talking to me." Ethan exhaled, almost like he'd been holding his breath since she woke up. "That's exactly why I'm here." Her stomach dropped. A cold fear washed over her skin. Fired. Had she already lost her job? Was this his way of delivering the news? He motioned to the chair again. This time she sat, not because she trusted him, but because her legs were shaking too hard to keep standing. Micah kept eating, humming softly to himself. Ethan glanced at the boy with a look of tenderness that confused her even more. CEOs didn't look at janitors' children that way. They barely looked at janitors. "Last night," Ethan began, choosing each word carefully, "something happened in the tower, something your supervisor didn't tell you." Nia stiffened. She already felt dread creeping up her spine. Every night shift carried the fear of something going wrong, of being blamed for something she didn't do. Poor black workers were always the easiest targets. Ethan continued. One of the senior managers, Mark Dresden, was involved in an incident with an employee, a serious one. Her heartbeat quickened. Denise, the crying, the whispers in the restroom, she swallowed hard. I heard something, but I wasn't involved." His eyes softened. "You were." Her breath caught. "What? No, I didn't." "You weren't involved in the incident," he clarified, "but you were mentioned in the report. Mark blamed you." Her blood ran cold. Blamed her? Of course he did. That was how the world worked. When powerful men messed up, they looked for someone powerless to bury the truth under. I wasn't even near them, she whispered, tears pricking her eyes. I didn't do anything. Ethan nodded. I know, I read the footage myself. Nia's breath shuddered. Footage, cameras, every corner of the building was covered, but footage didn't always save people like her. She'd seen coworkers fired over lies, over politics, over favoritism. Ethan continued. Mark told HR you tampered with the elevators, that you created a distraction so the incident couldn't be recorded. He said you were trying to sabotage the company. Nia covered her mouth with her hand, shaking her head. No, that's not true. I would never do something like that. I don't even know how to. I know, Ethan said again, firmer this time. You didn't, and I'm not here to accuse you. She stared at him, disbelief clouding her vision. Then why are you here? He hesitated, and in that hesitation was the truth, heavy, complicated, and painful. Because the board planned to fire you this morning, he said quietly, before your shift even started. The words hit her like a blow to the chest. Fired. She could see the eviction notice already, could see her and Micah on the streets, could see her son losing everything. Her voice cracked, barely a whisper. Why would they fire me? Why would they believe him? Ethan's jaw tightened. Because you're an easy target, because you work nights, because you don't have a degree or connections, because they assumed nobody would fight for you. A tear slipped down her cheek, not because she was surprised, but because she was. But I fought, he continued, surprising her. I spent the entire night going through reports, camera logs, timestamps, and I found something. She blinked slowly. What did you find? Ethan took a deep breath. You weren't just innocent, you were the only person who tried to help. Nia frowned in confusion. Help? She had no memory of doing anything beyond her normal routine. She wiped floors, cleaned trash bins, mopped hallways. What could she have possibly done? Ethan saw the confusion and leaned in slightly, lowering his voice. When the incident happened, the victim, the woman, ran into the hallway. She was scared, crying. You didn't ask questions. You didn't hesitate. You handed her tissues. You guided her to the restroom. You stayed with her until she could breathe again. Nia's eyes widened. A soft gasp left her. She remembered vaguely. A woman rushing past her, shaking, mascara running. Nia had simply done what she always did, treat someone like a human being. I didn't know what happened, she whispered. She looked scared. Anyone would have helped her. Ethan shook his head. Not everyone would have, and not everyone did. You were the only one. A long silence settled between them. Then he said the words that made her entire world tilt. And that's why I'm here. She stared at him, heart pounding. What do you mean? Ethan looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Because you changed everything last night, without even knowing it. Ethan didn't move. He stood there in her tiny kitchen, framed by the peeling paint and the flickering tube light, and for a moment Nia felt like she was watching two different worlds collide. His world, polished floors, tinted windows, luxury offices, and hers, where survival depended on stretching leftovers and praying bills wouldn't arrive early. Micah sat on the chair next to him, swinging his little legs, completely unfazed. He was eating pancakes like nothing unusual was happening. Maybe to him this was normal. Adults came and went. He had learned not to ask questions when grown-ups whispered. But Nia wasn't a child. She saw everything, especially danger. She stepped forward, voice trembling with anger she tried to hide. Why are you here? I need you to say the truth. Why my house? Ethan exhaled sharply, like he'd been holding his breath since last night. You didn't answer my calls. I needed to talk to you. It's important. And I thought. She cut him off. You think you can walk into my house? I don't care who you are. You don't get to step inside a single mother's home uninvited. His jaw tightened, shame flickering across his face. You're right, I crossed a line. I should have waited outside, but this couldn't wait anymore. Couldn't wait for what? She snapped. To make me the scapegoat. Micah looked between them, confused. Mommy, what's wrong? Nia's eyes softened instantly. Go to your room, baby. I'll come check in a minute. He hesitated. She forced a smile. It's okay, go on. Micah walked off, clutching his superhero backpack. When the bedroom door clicked shut, Nia turned back to Ethan, her expression steeled. Talk now. Ethan rubbed his hands together nervously, a gesture she'd never expect from a man with his reputation. He wasn't acting like a CEO. He was acting like someone who had lost control. "It's about the report filed last night," he said quietly. "The harassment complaint." Nia's heartbeat spiked. "I didn't file anything." "I know," he said quickly. "You didn't, but someone used your name." Her breath stopped. "What?" "Your login, your ID, your access time stamp." She shook her head. No, I don't even know how to file a complaint. I've never touched those systems." "That's why I came," Ethan replied. "Because someone is setting you up, and if you didn't show up today, security was instructed to escort you out." A coldness spread through her chest. She leaned against the counter just to stay steady. "This is a lie. Someone's trying to ruin me." Ethan looked her straight in the eye. "That's exactly what I'm saying." Silence stretched between them, heavy, dangerous. "Who," she whispered, "who would do this?" He hesitated too long for a comfort. "I don't know yet," he said, though guilt flickered in his eyes like he knew more than he was admitting. She stepped closer, voice shaking. "My job is all I have. My son were already hanging by a thread. Why would anyone target me? I'm nobody." Ethan's expression softened, the mask of a powerful man slipping. "You're not nobody," he said quietly. She flinched at the softness in his voice, at the guilt radiating from him like heat. She crossed her arms, defensive. "Stop talking like you know me." "I don't," he said. "But I know this isn't right. Someone in the company is covering something up, and they're using your name to bury it. And if I don't figure it out by tonight, they'll fire you, blacklist you, and flag you as a liability. You won't get hired anywhere in the city again." Nia felt the floor tilt beneath her. She imagined eviction, homelessness, child protective services, Micah's small body in the arms of strangers. The world had never played fair with women like her. She knew what a liability tag did. It meant poverty that followed you for life. "You're telling me I'm one click away from losing everything," she whispered. He nodded once, yes. She sank into the chair across from him, hands trembling so badly she hid them under the table. "Why come to me?" she whispered. "Why not send a lawyer or an HR rep? Why yourself?" His eyes flicked toward the hallway, where Micah had gone. "Because this isn't just corporate drama. Someone used your access to delete camera footage." His voice dropped. "Footage involving a senior executive and a woman who can't defend herself." Nia looked up, throat tight. Does she know I'm being blamed? She doesn't even know her complaint was erased. So someone attacked her, and now they're trying to destroy me. Her voice cracked with disbelief. He nodded. She swallowed hard, anger rising now, anger she had swallowed for years, but this time it was burning. "You're the CEO. You could fix this with one order." "If I do that," he said, "the board will assume I'm sabotaging an internal investigation. They'll say I'm protecting someone. They'll bury it deeper." "Then what do you want from me?" she asked, her voice breaking in frustration. "You didn't come here to warn me. You came here because you need something." He closed his eyes, jaw tightening with a truth he didn't want to say. "Nia, I need your help." She laughed, a painful, bitter sound. "Help? I can barely help myself." "You're the only one who saw the victim crying in the restroom. You spoke to her. She trusts you. She didn't tell HR, she told you." Nia froze. "You were seen with her," he added, "and whoever is covering this up, they know that." Her stomach churned. "So that's why I'm being framed," she whispered, "because I know too much." He nodded, exactly. The realization hit her like a punch. She was caught in a war she didn't even know existed. "So what do you expect me to do?" Her voice trembled. "March into the office and confront a senior manager? I'd lose my job on the spot." "No," Ethan said. "I don't want you confronting anyone. I want you to tell me everything." "I already told you she was crying, that's all." "No," he leaned forward. "You said last night she kept saying something about not wanting it to happen again. What did she mean?" Nia looked away. She remembered the woman's eyes, red, hollow, terrified. She remembered her shaking voice. She also remembered promising she wouldn't repeat her words. "I can't," Nia whispered. "She trusted me." "And I'm asking you to trust me," Ethan said. "Because if we don't do this right, two women get destroyed instead of one." Her voice wavered. "Why do you even care?" He didn't answer immediately. Then he lowered his voice. Because one of the men being protected is someone close to me. Nia's breath caught. Who? He didn't answer. His silence asterisk was the answer. Her eyes widened. Someone from your family. His silence deepened. Your brother, she whispered. Ethan didn't deny it. For a moment, Nia forgot how to breathe. So your brother hurt that girl, and now the company is covering for him. He looked down. Not the company, a small group of people with too much power and no conscience. They think I'll protect him because we share blood. He met her eyes again. But I won't. I just need proof, and right now you're the only link they can erase. The room vibrated with tension. Nia stared at him, this powerful man sitting in her kitchen, looking like a scared brother rather than a CEO. You really think I can help fix this? She whispered. I know you can, he said. And if I do, then by 6 p.m. you'll be fired, and my brother will walk free, again. She closed her eyes. Micah's laugh echoed faintly from his bedroom. Her son needed her. She couldn't afford to become invisible again. She couldn't let someone write her story for her, not this time. When she opened her eyes, something had hardened in them. A decision. A risk. A fire she didn't know she carried. Okay, she whispered. What do you need me to do? Ethan exhaled like he'd finally reached the moment he'd been dreading and waiting for. His next words would pull her deeper into a world she never wanted to enter. And change everything, forever. The moment Nia agreed, a shift cracked through the room, subtle but powerful enough to make the air feel heavier. Ethan straightened, not in triumph, but in the silent dread of a man who understood the cost of what he was asking. And Nia, arms folded tightly across her chest, stood like someone bracing against a storm she couldn't dodge anymore. First, Ethan said softly, I need you to tell me everything that happened last night, every word she said, every detail, even the ones that felt small. Nia swallowed, her throat suddenly felt raw. She replayed the moment in the restroom, Denise, eyes red, mascara streaked, shoulders shaking uncontrollably. Nia had walked in with a mop and bucket, not expecting to see a grown woman hiding in a corner like a wounded child. She hadn't asked questions. She had simply stood beside her, offered paper towels, and let silence do the comforting. She said, Nia hesitated. She said she was scared to go home. She said he told her this wasn't her first warning. Ethan's face tightened. Her first warning, he echoed. He threatened her. She didn't say his name, Nia whispered, but she kept saying she didn't want it to happen again, that she shouldn't have trusted him when he said it was just a meeting. She kept apologizing, like she had done something wrong. A quiet, sharp inhale escaped Ethan. That's exactly his pattern, he muttered, more to himself than to her. Whose pattern? Nia pressed. His expression darkened. My brother S. The words sat between them like poison. Does she know it was him? Nia asked. No, Ethan said. He was careful enough not to leave anything obvious, but the timestamps, access logs, building elevators, all of it lines up too perfectly. He's done this before. His hands clenched into fists. Never with consequences. Nia leaned her elbows on the table, burying her shaking hands beneath the surface. This sounds bigger than me, bigger than her. Why not go to the police? Ethan laughed, not out of amusement, but bitterness. You think the police will go after a Hale with no evidence and a complaint that got digitally erased? They'll say she's lying. They'll say you're lying. They'll say I'm dragging the family name through dirt. His face hardened. And they'll say my brother is the victim. Nia felt her stomach twist. How long has this been happening? She asked. Years, Ethan admitted quietly. But I didn't have proof before. I only had suspicion, which made me look like the unstable one. He paused, and he made sure the board saw me that way. Nia froze. Wait, he's on the board. He's the board's golden child, Ethan corrected. The youngest, smartest, most charming Hale, the one everyone expects to take the company from me someday. Her eyebrows shot up. He wants your job. He wants everything, Ethan said. Power, respect, control, and the board, he scoffed. The board would rather fire every janitor in the building than let their favorite heir get accused of something this serious. Suddenly, everything made sense. This wasn't a story about a complaint. This was about power, legacy, money, reputation. and Nia was standing in the middle of a battlefield she never asked to step into. "If they're trying to cover it up," she said, "they won't stop at firing me." He met her gaze. "They won't." Nia felt something cold slide down her spine. "What else will they do?" she whispered. "They'll say you fabricated it. They'll dig into your background. They'll find anything they can twist, unpaid bills, daycare issues, your ex's abandonment, and use it to destroy your credibility." His voice was grim. "They'll turn you into the villain so my brother walks free." Her breath caught in her chest. "So I'm already guilty." "Yes," Ethan said, "unless we get ahead of them." His certainty shook her. "How?" she whispered. "By proving who really logged that file," he said. "By recovering what they tried to erase, and by getting her, Denise, somewhere safe where she can't be intimidated." Nia's heart pounded. "She won't talk to you," she said. "She barely trusts anyone." "She'll trust you," Ethan replied. Nia shook her head. "She's afraid. She said last night she didn't want anyone to know." "Well, now they know," he said, "and they're not going to let her stay silent." A deep sense of dread settled in her chest. "What are they planning?" she whispered. "Either pressure her to retract or threaten her job," Ethan said calmly. "Worst case, they'll offer a settlement to buy her silence." Nia felt sick. "She deserves justice," she said fiercely. "That's why I'm here," Ethan answered, "to do what the board won't." She looked at him long and hard, trying to read his intentions. "So what now?" she asked. "We go to the tower," Ethan said, "together." She blinked. "What? No, I can't go back there. Not today, they're looking for me." "They won't touch you if I'm beside you," he said firmly. "And we need your login activity, CCTV hallway backups, access card logs, all of it." Nia stared at him like he had lost his mind. "You want me to walk into the building I'm being framed in," she said slowly, "to help you expose the people framing me." "Yes," he said. "That sounds like a suicide mission." "Only if we go alone," he replied. "What does that mean?" "I've already contacted someone from IT who owes me a favor. He's discreet. He can pull hidden access logs that the board doesn't know exist. And he's okay breaking company rules." "He's not loyal to the board," Ethan said. "He's loyal to truth." "And Denise?" Nia asked. "We'll bring her in last," he replied. "Right now, the priority is securing proof before the board deletes everything." Nia paced the cramped kitchen, running her hands through her hair. "My son, I can't leave him alone today." Ethan nodded. "Then bring him." She froze. "You want me to what?" "It's safer," he said. "If the board makes a move today, and they will, I want your son where I can see him." Nia stared at him, shocked at how easily he said the words. "You're talking like someone might hurt us." Ethan didn't blink. "I'm talking like a man who knows exactly what they're capable of." Nia's heartbeat hammered in her ears. "What if I say no?" she whispered. Ethan stepped closer, not intimidating but urgent. "Then they will fire you before noon," he said. "And by evening they will bury the truth forever, and the next woman my brother harms will have no warning, no ally, no chance." Nia closed her eyes. Her breath trembled. Her hands trembled. Her fear trembled. But underneath it all, something else stirred. Anger. Protection. Resolve. She had survived too much to let powerful men decide the rest of her life. She opened her eyes slowly. "What time do we leave?" she asked. Ethan exhaled like he'd been waiting for those words. "Now," he said. And in that moment, standing in her dimly lit kitchen, Nia knew the truth. She wasn't just fighting for her job anymore. She was fighting for Denise. For herself. For her son. For every woman who had ever been told to stay quiet. And she was walking straight into the lion's den, with the most unexpected ally beside her. The drive to Hale Tower felt longer than it ever had. Nia sat in the passenger seat stiff as a board, her fingers gripping the fabric of her jeans. Micah sat in the back humming softly, swinging his legs, eating the last of the pancakes Ethan had made. He had no idea his mother was going to war. Ethan drove with a focus that bordered on cold. Not distracted, not nervous, just prepared. Every turn, every lane change, every glance in the mirrors felt intentional, like he'd mapped out every possible danger before they left the apartment. "Are you always this intense when you drive?" Nia asked, trying to ease the pressure in her chest. He didn't look at her. "Only when I'm protecting something." She went quiet. "Not something. Someone." The tower came into view, tall, glassy, powerful, the kind of building that swallowed people like her whole. Nia felt her breath hitch. The last time she walked through those revolving doors, she was invisible. Today, she was a threat, and every person inside that building knew it. As the car pulled into the private basement level, Nia grabbed Ethan's arm. "Ethan, wait. If they see me with you, they'll know something's wrong." "They already know," he said simply, "and it doesn't matter, I'm done hiding." The words carried weight she didn't fully understand. Not yet. He put the car in park. "Stay close, they will try to intimidate you. They will try to discredit me. They may even lie straight to our faces. Just stay beside me." She nodded, swallowing fear. They stepped out into the underground garage, quiet, echoing with distant humming. As they approached the elevator, a security guard stepped forward, stiff and suspicious. "Mr. Hale," the guard said, "we were told you'd be working from home today." Ethan didn't slow his pace. "Plans changed. And you're not authorized to bring guests into the lower floors," the guard added, eyes shifting to Nia with barely disguised contempt. Nia felt her shoulders tighten. They weren't even pretending to hide it anymore. Ethan's voice turned sharper. "She's with me." "Sir, I need to call." "No," Ethan cut him off, stepping closer. "What you're going to do is move." The guard stumbled back, stunned. Ethan wasn't loud. He wasn't even angry. He was simply done playing games. The elevator doors slid shut behind them. Nia's hands shook. "That was different," she murmured. He let out a humorless breath. "I've spent years letting them think I'm easy to manipulate. Not anymore." The elevator rose, floor by floor, tension thickening with each passing second. When the doors opened, the entire executive hallway felt colder, darker than usual. Two board members stood near the glass wall, whispering urgently the moment they saw him step out. One of them, Mrs. Caldwell, marched toward them. "Ethan, what is the meaning of—" "I don't have time for you," he said, brushing past her with Nia right behind him. She gasped, offended. "You can't speak to the board like that." "You're not the board," he snapped. "You're my employees." Nia swallowed a stunned breath. She had never seen him like this. Sharp, fearless, unshakable. They turned down the corridor leading toward it, a restricted zone that only a handful of people had access to. As they walked, Nia leaned closer to him. "You said you had someone inside," she asked. "I do," Ethan said. They reached a door labeled *authorized personnel, only ***. Ethan typed in a code, followed by a fingerprint scan. The heavy lock released. A tall, slender man with glasses sat inside, typing quickly at a workstation filled with server logs and data screens. He looked up, startled. "You actually brought her," he whispered. "She's essential," Ethan replied. "What do you have?" The man, Dev, motioned them over quickly. "I pulled the hidden logs. The ones the board doesn't know are backed up daily. But you're not going to like what I found." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Show me." Dev turned the monitor. Lines of data filled the screen. Employee names, access times, camera IDs. Then, *user, M. Dresden. 4:17 a.m., deleted file. HR complaint 49. 4:17 a.m., deleted file. Hallway cam 17A. 4:18 a.m., created file. Incident statement altered. 4:18 a.m., added mention. Janitorial staff and Carter ***. Nia felt her knees weaken. He actually changed the report," she whispered. "He put my name in it." Dev nodded grimly. "That's not all." Ethan leaned over, reading faster now, anger sharpening every muscle in his face. 3:50 a.m. user, N. Carter. Hallway cam 17A recording, 1 minute 12 seconds. Subject, unidentified employee in distress. Location, floor 48. Nia pressed a hand to her chest. That's her, Denise. Dev clicked another tab. I tried to open it, but the footage is corrupted. Corrupted how? Ethan demanded. Someone tried to overwrite it, Dev said. They didn't succeed entirely, but the video is damaged. I can restore parts of the audio maybe, but not the image, Ethan finished. Dev nodded. Nia felt helplessness crash over her. So we still have nothing. Ethan turned to her sharply. No, we have proof he altered the files. That's enough to open an internal investigation. You think the board will approve that? Dev asked. They worship Mark. They won't have a choice, Ethan answered, because now it's not just my word, it's Nia's, and it's the digital trail. Dev hesitated. There's something else you need to see. Nia and Ethan exchanged a look. Dev pulled up another log. This one chilled Nia to her core. Incoming email. Sender Board HR. Subject immediate termination notice. Employee Nia Carter. Scheduled delivery 11:30 a.m. Nia's breath trembled. Her firing was literally scheduled. Dev continued, voice low. They were waiting for you to clock in, that's it. She covered her mouth with her hand. They had planned her downfall down to the minute. Ethan's face hardened with fury. Not anymore. He took a deep breath, turning to Dev. Can you stall that email? Dev nodded quickly. Yes, I can delay it, maybe buy you a few hours. Do it, Ethan said. Dev typed rapidly. Nia sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. All of this because he wanted to protect himself, she whispered. It's not just that, Ethan said, sitting beside her. His voice was lower now, more personal. My brother will destroy anyone who threatens him, and last night, without knowing it, you became a threat. Nia stared at him, her voice hollow. I didn't ask for that. I know, Ethan said quietly, but you're not alone in it anymore. She looked away, fighting the sting in her eyes. So what now? She asked. Ethan hesitated. Now we bring her in. Nia's breath froze. Denise, you want to bring her here? It's the only way, he said. We need her voice. If she's willing to speak, even privately, even anonymously, we can build something undeniable. And if she's not willing, Nia asked. Ethan met her gaze, and the weight of his eyes said everything. Then we protect her anyway. A long silence filled the room. Nia felt fear. She felt anger. She felt exhaustion. But beneath it all, she felt a rising fire. This wasn't just about her job anymore. This was about truth. This was about survival. This was about justice. She finally stood, steadying herself. Call her, she said. Tell her I'm here. Ethan nodded slowly. And in that moment, in that quiet, dimly lit IT room, the battle lines of truth were officially drawn. The storm inside that small janitor's room had been building for days, but nothing compared to the silence that fell when Mr. Dalton finally cornered Raymond in the executive hallway. It was late evening. Most employees had left. Only the hum of air vents and the distant blinking red light of the security camera filled the emptiness. Dalton's polished shoes clicked like warning shots on the marble floor as he approached, chest rising and falling with anger he'd spent years pretending he didn't have. Raymond was quietly locking his supply cart, ready to head home, unaware of the confrontation coming. The CEO stopped a few feet away, his face tight, jaw trembling as though he had swallowed a truth too large to hold any longer. We need to talk, Dalton said, but it wasn't a request. It was the clipped tone of a man used to being obeyed. Raymond straightened slowly. He wasn't afraid, but he could feel the shift in the air, an old wound beginning to pulse. I figured this moment was coming, he murmured, wiping his hands on the towel tucked at his waist. Dalton stepped closer. Why are you doing this to me? His voice cracked in a way that startled even him. Why come back here? Why this building? Why me? He sounded less like a powerful CEO and more like a man whose past had finally caught up with him. Raymond didn't move. He studied the man who once stood over him as if he were dirt, less than the floor he scrubbed. Raymond had always known this confrontation was inevitable, but he never imagined it would feel so strangely quiet. I didn't come back for revenge, he said softly. I came back because life brought me back, because my daughter needed a job, because fate has a funny way of circling things back. Dalton's frustration twisted into disbelief. But you knew who I was the moment you saw me. You knew what happened years ago. You could ruin everything I built, everything. Raymond exhaled, the sound heavy with memories. I didn't come to ruin you, but I also wasn't going to hide from you. Dalton's shoulders tightened. His voice dropped to a pained whisper. You don't understand what's at stake. If the board finds out, if investors hear even a rumor, everything collapses. My career, my reputation, my family. Raymond's eyes flashed. Your family? You're worried about your family now? The words carried decades of quiet suffering, and Dalton felt them like stones thrown at his chest. Where was that concern when you threw me out of this very building all those years ago? When you told security to escort me out because people like me don't belong in places like this? Dalton winced as if the floor had tilted beneath him. I was young, stupid, trying to impress a boardroom full of old men who judged me just as harshly. He ran a shaking hand down his face. I regret it. I swear I do. The hallway temperature seemed to drop. Regret. Such a small word compared to the weight of humiliation, years of instability, lost opportunities, and the feeling of being crushed under someone else's privilege. Raymond stepped closer, his voice steady. Your regret doesn't erase what you did. It doesn't erase the day I went home with my daughter in my arms, not knowing how I'd keep our lights on. It doesn't erase the years I spent rebuilding a life you shattered because you needed to prove something to men who didn't care about you either. Dalton swallowed hard, his chin quivered. You could destroy me, I know that, but if you're not here for revenge, what do you want from me? Raymond looked around the hallway, its glossy floors reflecting the contrast between them. One dressed in an expensive suit, the other in a janitor's uniform, yet somehow the power between them felt reversed for the first time. I want the truth, your truth, not the polished CEO version, the real one. Dalton staggered back a step as though the request had hit a place he wasn't ready to expose. The truth is, he hesitated, chest trembling. I'm ashamed, deeply, and every time I see you it reminds me of the weakest version of myself. The version who hid behind privilege, fear, and pressure. I hate that version. I've spent years pretending he didn't exist, but you bring him back. Raymond didn't blink. Maybe it's time you stop pretending. Dalton's eyes watered, a crack forming in the armor he'd built. I'm not the man I was back then. I've done everything to change, but if this comes out... He looked around again, paranoia clawing at him. They won't care about my growth. They won't care about apologies. They'll only care about the headline. Raymond's voice lowered. Then maybe you should stop worrying about headlines and start worrying about being a decent man. The rawness of the words made Dalton's breath hitch. For a moment, he looked like he might fall apart right there on the marble floor. Then a sound echoed, the soft click of heels. Jenna. She froze mid-step when she saw them, sensing the heaviness in the air. Dalton stiffened immediately, wiping his face quickly, trying to regain composure. But Jenna saw too much. The vulnerability he tried to hide was written all over him. Is everything okay? She asked cautiously. Dalton opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Raymond nodded politely. We're fine. Jenna looked between them, recognizing the tension but unsure of the cause. She turned to leave, but Dalton unexpectedly said, Stay. Jenna hesitated, then stepped closer, her eyes landing on her father's trembling hands. Something inside her tightened with worry. Dad. Dalton's throat moved as he gathered courage he wasn't used to needing. Jenna, there's something you do know, something I should have told you a long time ago. A pulse of fear fluttered through her chest. What is it? Dalton looked at Raymond, silently asking permission. Raymond gave a small nod. Dalton exhaled shakily. Years ago, I made a decision that hurt someone who didn't deserve it. I fired Raymond unjustly. I humiliated him in front of everyone. I damaged his life because I was insecure and weak. Jenna's eyes widened, her face flushed with disbelief. What, Dad, you did that? He trembled as he nodded. Yes, and every day since he returned, I've been terrified, not because he's done anything wrong, but because facing him means facing the man I once was. Jenna looked at Raymond, then back at her father. So you've been carrying this guilt for years. Dalton's eyes glistened. Years. Something shifted in the air, an opening small but real. Jenna stepped forward, her voice softening as she looked at Raymond. And you came back, knowing all this, you still showed grace. Raymond smiled sadly. Life leaves us very little room for bitterness if we want to move forward. Dalton let out a trembling breath. I don't deserve your forgiveness, I know that, but I'm asking anyway. Raymond studied him. The hallway felt like a courtroom, quiet, still, holding its breath. For the first time, he saw Dalton not as the young, arrogant boss who destroyed him, nor the polished CEO who hid behind status, but as a flawed man desperate to become better. Raymond stepped closer, his voice firm but gentle. Forgiveness isn't about deserving, it's about releasing what's been poisoning your own heart. He paused, letting the weight sink in. And I'm tired of carrying poison. Dalton's eyes filled. So you forgive me. I forgive the man you were, Raymond said. But what happens next depends on the man you choose to be now. Dalton broke, shoulders shaking, a silent sob escaping before he could stop it. For the first time in his life, he bowed his head to the janitor he once crushed. And as he did, the entire hallway felt different, lighter, as if decades of buried truth had finally surfaced. Raymond reached out, placing a steady hand on Dalton's shoulder. Stand up, son. We're both men, and this world is heavy enough without us weighing each other down. Dalton lifted his head slowly, tears streaking his face, but something new shone in his eyes, humility. Jenna watched them, her heart swelling with something like awe. It was not revenge. It was not victory. It was justice that healed instead of destroying. And the room went silent once more. The building felt different the next morning, as if all the secrets it had absorbed over the years had finally exhaled. Raymond arrived early as always, pushing his cart through the halls before most lights were even on. But there was a new quiet inside him, a peace that softened the edges of his routine. For the first time in years, he wasn't walking with the weight of the past pressing on his shoulders. Something had shifted. Something had released. When he reached the executive floor, he expected everything to be the same, strict, polished, distant. But when the elevator doors opened, he saw Dalton standing there, waiting. Not as a CEO supervising his employees, but simply as a man acknowledging another man's presence. Dalton's suit was crisp as always, but his expression carried a gentleness that had never existed before. Morning, Dalton said, voice steady but humble. Raymond nodded, morning. Dalton walked alongside him, an act unthinkable just days ago. I thought about our conversation all night, he admitted. I realized how much fear has controlled my choices, fear of being exposed, fear of losing power, fear of facing myself. He paused, breathing in slowly. I don't want to lead from fear anymore. Raymond smiled faintly. Growth starts when fear ends. Dalton nodded, his eyes softening. And I want this place, this company to be better, not just profitable, not just impressive, but human. They continued down the hallway, passing framed awards and photographs of company milestones. But Dalton no longer looked at them with pride. Instead, he seemed to see the spaces between them, the cost of each achievement, the people forgotten along the way, the decisions made in silence. When they reached Raymond's supply room, Dalton stopped. I want to start by making amends the right way, not privately, not quietly, but publicly, he swallowed, if you're willing. Raymond raised a brow. What do you have in mind? Dalton hesitated, but only for a second. A company meeting. Raymond nearly chuckled. You want to tell everyone what you did. I want to tell the truth, Dalton said. Not because I'm forced to, but because it's time. The sincerity in his voice was unmistakable. Raymond saw a man trying, truly trying, to evolve past his past. Later that afternoon, the entire staff gathered in the central auditorium. Employees whispered among themselves. Some wondered why a last-minute mandatory meeting had been called. Jenna stood near the front, her eyes shifting between her father and Raymond with quiet anticipation. She knew what this moment meant for her father, and what it meant for Raymond, too. When Dalton stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent. He gripped the edges of the podium, steadying himself as hundreds of eyes focused on him. Before we talk about company updates, he began, his voice carrying a weight that instantly silenced the whispers, I need to say something personal, something overdue. The staff looked confused. Dalton rarely spoke about anything personal. He drew in a deep breath. Many years ago, when I was still young and inexperienced, I made a decision that was unfair, unethical, and rooted in insecurity. I fired someone who deserved respect. I mistreated someone because I feared looking weak. His voice threatened to crack, but he continued firmly. The person I hurt was Raymond. A ripple went through the room. Dozens of heads turned to look at the quiet janitor standing near the wall. Dalton's eyes found Raymond's. He carried the consequences, I carried the guilt, but today I'm done hiding from the truth. He paused. I want to apologize to him openly, transparently, without excuses. There was no dramatic gasp, no applause. Just silence, real, honest silence, the kind that appears when people witness something unexpected and true. Dalton stepped away from the podium, walked to Raymond, and did something no one in the room could have predicted. He extended his hand. Raymond looked at it for a long moment, not out of pride, but from the weight of the moment, the world watching, history confronting itself. Then he took the hand, strong and steady. Dalton nodded gratefully. Thank you, he whispered. Jenna's eyes glistened with pride. What happened next caused an even stronger shift in the building's atmosphere. Employees began clapping. Slowly at first, then louder, then united. Not for Dalton's mistake, but for the courage it took to acknowledge it, and for Raymond's grace in accepting it. When the applause settled, Dalton returned to the stage, his voice steadier. From today forward, I want this company to operate differently. More accountability, more fairness, more humanity. I want to create opportunities for people who work hard, regardless of background or title. He glanced toward Raymond, and I want to start with him. The crowd murmured again. Dalton continued, Raymond has mentored countless employees without anyone asking him to. He's helped more people than I ever have. He is the heart of this building, whether any of us recognized it or not. He exhaled. So I'm offering him a promotion, a leadership role in staff development and employee well-being if he wants it. All eyes turned to Raymond. Raymond shook his head gently, smiling. I appreciate the offer, truly, but I'm not here for titles. I'm here because I love working, I love helping, and I don't need a new position to keep doing that. Dalton blinked, caught off guard, but then he nodded, understanding. Then we'll support you however you want to serve. The meeting ended on a wave of quiet admiration. As the crowd dispersed, employees approached Raymond one by one, thanking him, shaking his hand, telling him stories of how he had helped them in ways he probably didn't even remember. For the first time in his life, he wasn't invisible. When the auditorium finally emptied, Dalton approached him once more. I meant what I said, he murmured. You've taught me more in the past few days than years of leadership workshops ever did. Raymond chuckled. Sometimes the best lessons come from the places we least expect. Dalton nodded. I want to keep rebuilding, not just the company but myself. Raymond put a hand on his shoulder. Then start one step at a time and forgive yourself along the way. Dalton's eyes softened. I will. Jenna joined them, slipping her arm through Raymond's. You know, she said with a warm smile, you're the reason I wanted to work here in the first place. You made this place feel safe. Raymond smiled. I'm proud of you, both of you. As they walked out of the auditorium together, CEO, daughter, and janitor, the building's cold lights suddenly felt warmer. They weren't just walking out of a room, they were walking out of an old chapter, and into a new one shaped by accountability, truth, and healing. Raymond looked down the hallway he had cleaned thousands of times. It no longer felt like a place of old wounds. It felt like a place where something had been restored, not status, not power, but humanity. And for the first time in a long time, the future felt open. Sometimes the hardest battles aren't fought with fists or fire, they're fought with truth. Raymond didn't come back to tear someone down. He didn't come back for revenge. He came back because integrity, courage, and justice cannot wait for the world to notice. And in doing so, he reminded everyone that even the smallest voices, those often overlooked, carry power that can change lives. Dalton, the CEO, thought he had control. He thought his status and privilege could erase past mistakes. But true leadership isn't measured by the size of your office or the sharpness of your suit. It's measured by your willingness to face your own wrongs, to stand accountable, and to allow healing where damage was done. In that quiet, tension-filled hallway, Dalton learned that the real strength is in humility, the courage to admit mistakes, and the choice to do better, no matter how late it may seem. Nia, standing beside them, understood another truth. Courage is contagious. One act of bravery, one step toward honesty, can inspire others to rise above fear, injustice, or oppression. Her fear transformed into resolve. Her doubt transformed into action. and her presence reminded everyone watching that no one is truly powerless when they decide to act with heart, dignity, and integrity. The lesson is simple but profound. Justice is not always loud. Redemption is not always immediate. But when truth meets courage, even the smallest act can ripple through the lives of many, healing old wounds and opening doors that once seemed permanently closed. Forgiveness, accountability, and human kindness are far more powerful than titles, wealth, or social status. If this story touched you, remember, no matter your background, your past, or the obstacles stacked against you, standing for what is right and facing the uncomfortable truths can change not only your life, but the lives of those around you. Let this be a reminder that strength, courage, and integrity are never wasted, and sometimes they can transform the world in ways you never imagined.